Cerca de 10 a 25% dos consumidores de antidepressivos SSRI, 7 milhões de pessoas no mundo inteiro, sentem acatesia. E o Manual de Diagnóstico e Estatística das Perturbações Mentais da Psiquiatria até admite a ligação entre os psicotrópicos, a acatesia e o suicídio. As estatísticas apoiam isto. A taxa de suicídios da população em geral é menos de 11 em cada 100 mil pessoas. Mas para cada 100 mil pessoas a tomar SSRIs, a taxa de suicídio sobe para 718, mais de 65 vezes esse valor. E, no entanto, é-nos dito diariamente por psiquiatras e empresas farmacêuticas que os psicotrópicos, de facto, evitam os suicídios. Então, o que é que devemos acreditar? Podemos começar pelas bulas nas embalagens das empresas farmacêuticas? Ou os dados não publicados sobre o antidepressivo Effexor? Ou a análise do Prozac feita pela própria FDA? Ou mesmo um relatório da Câmara dos Comuns britânica sobre o Zyprexa? É claro que nem toda a gente comete suicídio, mas o número tremendo de outros efeitos secundários pode ser horrível.
The medication that the psychiatrist prescribed me made me feel awful. Constant headaches, constant nausea, wanting my skin to turn inside out, just feeling like bugs were crawling all over me all the time.
It made me feel like all slow and like sluggish and stuff. Like, and when somebody would ask me something, it would kind of like take a minute, like, what?
These drugs have affected my heart. They have affected my liver.
Weight gain one time, hit like 40 pounds.
These thoughts come over me like I wanted to kill I wanted to really hurt somebody.
It just sucks all the life out of you. So you're like a body, like a machine.
I didn't want to live. I didn't have the desire to live. I felt miserable.
You just can't live, you know, you'd just rather die. Because there's no living when you're hallucinating every day.
I actually tried to commit suicide with my psych meds.
At some point when you realize that you are really just existing, you're not living, at some point you realize you need to take the risk to get off.
Mas então, e aqueles que dizem que os psicotrópicos os fizeram sentir-se melhor, que para eles estes foram medicamentos salvadores, cujos benefícios excedem os seus riscos? Será que os psicotrópicos são de facto seguros e eficazes para estas pessoas?
So what ends up happening is that someone feels good for a while, and then very often they have to have their dose increased, and then they feel good for a while, and then they might have to have it increased again, or maybe they'll switch agents. So it's that kind of a story if you're not actually getting to the root of what's going on.
I think the research is pretty clear that then all of a sudden starts to change, and you start to have a supersensitivity to being depressed, in which case then they become more depressed, and then they're chronically depressed.
E há bastantes provas de que se os efeitos secundários a curto prazo dos psicotrópicos não apanharem a pessoa, então os efeitos a longo prazo irão apanhá-la.
Psychiatric drugs are toxic to the body. They do build up in the body and add to the body's reserve and reservoir of toxins that will suppress the immune system, and the body will try and fight them as foreign objects.
If they're on these medications for years and years and years, I mean, one of the things that we know about adults and some of the, for bipolar and schizophrenia is that they're dying at younger ages, and these are adults. So if we're starting this medication approach with young kids, what is their life expectancy going to be?
No one's really examined it or is looking at the big picture, which is what's it really do to a society with a proliferation of mood-altering, emotion-altering, or blunting in a society at large.
And I think we're going to really see a huge increase in violence and suicide and a lot of bizarre behaviors that we haven't seen, because for a very short period of time, only in the last 60 years, have we really started medicating, intoxicating our brain with these incredibly toxic substances.
A probabilidade muito real de efeitos secundários significativos a longo e a curto prazo deveria dar a qualquer pessoa que esteja a considerar tomar psicotrópicos muitas razões para refletir. Mas então, e aqueles que já os estão a tomar e que por mais que tentem, não os conseguem largar? Há muito que se notou que os psicotrópicos têm um grande número de efeitos secundários físicos e emocionais com que muitas pessoas não conseguem viver. Mas se os efeitos secundários dos psicotrópicos são tão maus, por que é que algumas pessoas continuam a tomá-los? Os psiquiatras, as empresas farmacêuticas e mesmo as entidades governamentais são responsáveis pela segurança das drogas que põem no mercado. E embora admitam relutantemente a existência da maioria dos efeitos secundários dos psicotrópicos, há mais um que eles quase nunca mencionam.
Every single one of these drugs are addictive, psychologically and or physically addictive.
They change your body's makeup, you change your body how it reacts to things. And so even though people, in their psychological state, they may be over their depression, they physically will need that drug still. And so that becomes the complication of getting them off.
I have people come to me on a weekend, they've run out of refills, and they say to me, if I don't take this drug, I'm going to get sick. If I don't take this drug, I'm going to get sick. We don't talk about psychologically. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about anxiety. I am going to get sick if I don't take this drug this weekend. It has nothing to do with psychology.
Mas veja o que alguns psiquiatras, questionados numa conferência recente da APA, tiveram para dizer sobre a viciação.
How addictive are psychiatric drugs?
They aren't. Only benzodiazepines.
They're not addictive at all.
Antidepressants are not generally considered addictive.
SSRIs are not addictive.
Antipsychotics, they don't cause addiction.
Major tranquilizers are all safe as far as addiction is concerned.
The drugs that most of us are using in neuropsychiatry are not addictive at all.
Então, quem é que está certo? Para descobrir isso, não precisamos de procurar mais longe do que os antigos pacientes com experiência em primeira mão.
The psychologists and psychiatrists, I went to both. They never told me that they would be addictive. They would cause me to have these thoughts.
For sure, the psychiatric drugs I was on was addicting.
Within six months to 9 months, I was hooked.
Boy, Xanax had a hold of me. I mean, I was going through a bottle of pills every 3 or 4 days.
I lost my job over it. Over a prescription drug that's not supposed to be addictive. Lost my job.
The reality is that it is addicting. It will wreck a person's life.
Este conflito sobre a viciação resume-se a uma definição de palavras. A maioria das pessoas pensa em viciação como uma necessidade psicológica ou física incontrolável de uma certa substância, mas não os psiquiatras. Eles definem a viciação como ansiar por uma dose cada vez maior da mesma droga, enquanto a necessidade incontrolável de continuar a tomar uma droga é categorizada apenas como dependência. É por isto que os psiquiatras não admitem que as suas drogas são viciantes.
In their definition, a very small percentage of people become addicted. The reality is a large percentage of people can't get off these drugs, and they call that dependence. It's all a matter of how they term it.
And when you look at addiction, it could be that their tolerance increases and their needs and wants to use the medications increase, or it could be they simply, once they start on the medication, they're not able to come off of it without help. They try to, and as soon as they try to come off the medications, they start to have symptoms that are unwanted and obviously keep them wanting to take the medications again.
When you explain to them how addictive it is, they are surprised because they're like, well, it's a prescription. So I do believe that a lot of people don't really know how harmful these meds are. They don't view them as dangerous as some of the street drugs.
Mas muitos psicotrópicos tornaram-se drogas de rua, especialmente a classe de drogas dada a crianças diagnosticadas como tendo desatenção ou hiperatividade. Estimulantes, como a Ritalina, Adderall e Concerta, causam tanta habituação que foram listadas pela Drug Enforcement Administration dos Estados Unidos como drogas de classe 2, substâncias altamente viciantes na mesma lista que a morfina e a cocaína.
Biochemistry and pharmacology of Ritalin is exactly the same as that of cocaine, except for the speed of onset.
A semelhança entre a Ritalina e a cocaína torna-se óbvia quando consideramos o grande problema do consumo de estimulantes nas nossas escolas, onde comprimidos de Ritalina e do seu parente químico Adderall são tomados como recreação por miúdos nos pátios escolares.
Some of my friends took Ritalin and Adderall just to get high, like that I've known throughout the years. Kids will chop that stuff up with a razor blade. It's pure, man. Pure drug, you know. That's why kids like it. They chop it up with a razor blade and snort it.
My cousin Sammy had this Ritalin, and we would eat it, and we'd be able to stay up all night and play video games. It was, your pupils would dilate. It was just outrageous.
Matter of fact, in 8th grade, I got kicked out of school 3 days before it let out for selling Ritalin and actually snorting lines in the back of the classroom. So yes, sir, it definitely caused me some problems there, and I definitely had people buying them from me. Yes.